Right. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together as a city. We ask you to help us to be good stewards of the folks that work here and the money and equipment, all that stuff. We ask you that you guide us through this budget process and help us make decisions that probably we just praise you and thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
New items for question consideration. Consideration action on a resolution setting dates, time, and places for public hearings on the proposed annexation of property identified as being the portion of FM 1385, beginning at the city limits just south of intersection of FM 1385 and Winter Ridge Boulevard, ending at the intersection of FM 1385 and FM 428. And any additional adjacent right of way in County, Texas, by the city of Auburn, Texas, authorizing and directing the city secretary to publish and mail such public hearing, and authorizing and directing city staff to prepare a service plan for said property.
Mayor and council, at your last meeting, did these resolutions for the public hearing for the annexations. You set the dates, time, and place at that time. We had a glitch with our advertisement in the newspaper, and we didn't make it in time on their deadline. So since it was not published within the 10-day period, we had to reset those public hearings. Our recommendation is for the first one to occur on the June 27th regular council meeting. And the second public hearing will be on June 29th, Saturday morning, for your second budget workshop. That'll key us in for a July vote for Addison. June 27th.
That dates for resolution.
Well, 6 p.m. on June 27th, 8 a.m. on June 20th.
From 6 p.m. June 27th and 8 a.m. June 20th.
Something like that on her. Probably the consideration act on a resolution setting dates, time, and place for public hearings with proposed annexation of property identified as being the portion of FM 428, beginning at the intersection of FM 1385 and FM 428, ending at the intersection of FM 428 and FM 31. And it is my action right of way, County, Texas, by the city of Auburn, Texas. Authorizing and directing the city secretary to publish and mail such public hearings, and authorizing and directing city staff to prepare a service plan for such property.
Mayor, council, this is the same as item number 1. This is just a different stretch of right way on the FM 428. Again, the dates will be the 27th at 6 p.m. with a 39th.
Setting, approving resolution setting dates for June 27th at 6 p.m. and June 29th, so 8 a.m. for public hearings on the annexation.
Second. All right, second, yeah, all third. Consideration action on the memorandum of understanding between the Auburn Police Department and Beacon Emergency Services Team, PA, doing business as best MS for medical control of the police department, Narcan program, and authorized to be the police department.
Good morning. Approach now with the fire departments. In this pathway, and introduced to best EMS, discussion of argument. The doctor who, the idea suggested that we need to. We can the most important, we have a knocking situation, really, bringing it back to everything that's proper, identifying things. Training. Situation. Several. Where everything we approved. PA, EBA, police department, parking program, and operating, the chief of police. Just I mean, when you.
Especially finance, tax rate, budget, initiative, operating project, and strategic plans, not limited to, but including duration of regarding tax rate, employee compensation. FY 24-25 project, city departments and services, revenue and expenditures, and water and wastewater.
Mayor. Thank y'all for being here on Saturday morning. It's got to be a very important budget. Thank the staff for being here. I've been working over the last few months to get us here for this Saturday. We have a lot to cover this morning. I hope to get us through fire, police, and HR. We may have a little bit of streets and parks as well, as we have some of the discussions kind of intertwined with each other. But what we wanted to do this morning was start out with a high level overview from Mike. It'll tell you, it'll explain to you where we're at, excuse me, on this budget, on the assumptions that we added. As a side note to that, when we talk about these major budget assumptions, these are still decisions that can be changed by the council. We think put this in here to give us a starting point, and we can go up or down with these numbers depending on what we feel. I'll turn it over to Mike and let him get started with the overview and we'll slide by it. I want to do admin first, right? Which is a couple of things to the admin.
Okay, good morning, everybody. So these are the major budget assumptions, and these are what we use to prepare the budgets that we look at today. And the summary. First one, we put in a placeholder 5% payroll budgetary increase. We did the TMRS city contribution has not changed at 6.5. It has been 6.5% since I've been here for 3 years. There is some opportunity in the future that we may discuss changing that, but I wanted to make sure that we still got the 6.5 in there. And then 15% for each. The group insurance, workers' compensation, and I call it commercial insurance. It's the other even on insurance, property. We did move HR from admin, so it goes from 5101 to 5117. That'll have an impact, of course, on the year-to-year comparison. We did establish a fleet department, which is 5115. We don't have much in there, but this first go around, we added a software out of the year that we will talk about in the supplemental request. The police budget is combined, Aubrey and Providence into one. In the column labeled the estimated actual is a combination of those two. So even though last year's budget hasn't stood out, what you're looking at today, the show last year's budget still split out between the two departments. But for this fiscal 24-25, then the estimated actual is our estimate for the full year for this fiscal year. But those are combined. Fire budget includes, we call it Plan B, to staggered hiring for Station 3 at Silverado. We did add some costs to a 501 budget that we expect to fund using the fire fund. But we'll talk to you about the SAFER grant, which is still in the process. We don't know, but we have also developed a contingency plan. In the event that we get that SAFER grant. But this budget has our assumption that it's not in it. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then supplemental requests. These are excluded from this first budget go around, but it's that large sheet, that 11 by 17 sheet that I gave you. And we are going to talk about those in our recommendations and thoughts on where we think the timing of those should be and where we would recommend funding those. But we'll talk to you about those in a few minutes. Okay, the next sheet, are there any questions on the assumptions? Okay. I start off with general fund revenue, and I've broken it out into some of the higher level categories. So I'll start off with fiscal 24. So this year, showed a budget and the estimate. And then for fiscal 25, I showed a proposed and the year-over-year change between the estimate and the proposed. You can see property taxes, we're showing a 13% increase. Sales tax 8.7. Franchise tax 17.2. That's very much tied into the rooftops as they get connected, and so that one has gone up a little bit more. Charges for services going down. Permits are going way up. The timing of permits, of course, is dependent on how the developers move forward, and we're expecting an increase in that with the developments in process. Interest income, it's way up over prior years. We're estimating to be the same as this year. And then all other expenses are down by 314,000. That note just indicates that we did receive a very large donation this year for fire, and the budget, next year budget doesn't include a big donation. So overall, revenue is going up by 359,000 in this budget. The estimate for this year is 17.7 million. Next year is 18.1. An increase of just short of $400,000.
Why is there about $1 million or 900,000 in the charges for services? What goes into that, or what do you get with that?
Charges for services, that is,
We did not include some contract money in budget. Because it's still.
okay, the next sheet is expense. I've broken out expense by department and by category. Same column format as the revenue. So budget and estimate, and then proposed is the fiscal 25 budget. So I mentioned administration, so we did move a couple of headcount out of administration, so that is the main driver of it going down. Police is up. I'll talk a little bit about that. Fire is up. I'll just kind of run through these, and then I've got a little analysis at the bottom. We can talk through it. And I've got a little more detail I can talk to you about some of these expenses. Overall expenses are up 10.6% versus this year's estimate. You can see the largest items are happens police and fire. If you look below, the components of those expenses tell us that virtually all, more than the increase for the departments, is from personnel. And a big chunk of that, as you can see below there, in the major budget items, is the fire station. That's 900,000, fire station number 3. And again, that's the Plan B staggered hiring that we talked about. The 5% increase across all wages is about 393,000. And 15% increase across all our insurances, group health, workers' comp, liability is about 200,000. And then I call it partial year versus full year. These are hires that happen during the year. So for this fiscal year, we only have a partial year of expense. And for next year, of course, we have the full year of expense. So that accounts for the increase. The department spending, when added all together, was actually below what this year's estimate is. We did have some, you'll remember, in some of our amendments, because we did talk a little bit about the surplus. Our budget surplus was almost 2.5 million. We did make some decisions to spend some of that, invest some of that. So now that we're projecting a surplus of $1,897,000 for this year, and the surplus in this budget is sitting right about just short of 600,000. And I'll just remind you that the surplus for fiscal 24 does not include the supplemental items, nor does the surplus for fiscal 25. They would reduce those surpluses depending on the decisions we make to move forward with those. So overall, we still maintain very good surplus. Department spending, as I said, is, I think it's conservative, but it is not aggressive. I think they recognize that with the revenue rate going up 2%, we'd like to keep expenses in line if we can. So I think that's been built into the budget. They've done a good job with that. I did mention on the PD. Remember, I was saying that the things the company is 789,000. The salary increase is 5%. That's 3,000. The income with the big effect, 130,000. Then we have in this budget, we've got in here a few new hires. Those alone are the 200,000. And then other things we do have every time TMRS. It's really about 48,000. Where he gets, or he gets impacted by partially higher. All that adds up to the increases. Chief Brooks will talk about some of the other things that go into that budget, but that pretty much accounts for the other. And for the fire department, it's expensive. It's B, which is 900, but 400. It's the 900. I think there's quite a bit of maintenance done on the buildings, which is reached the next year. I think it's the building and maintenance of that. That's kind of the overall picture of the budget. Again, we followed our conservative process. We believe our revenue assumptions are conservative. We believe we picked up every expense that's going to hit us. So we think it's conservative from that perspective. And we've isolated some potential positive contingencies that we'd like to talk about that could impact what we do. Largely being the safer brand of things, but other items. And as I mentioned, we do have a large surplus that we expect this fiscal year, which may help us do some things that we may not otherwise be able to do. We do have a surplus for next year, which we'd like to maintain. So that being said, any questions on revenue or expense or process? Okay, Charles, we want to hold off for discussion of supplemental.
Yeah, we'll just go in order and get that. Let's see first if the council has any questions on revenue. From revenues have changed. They've had a chance to look at the budget and see if there's any collective funding there. I've already addressed it.
I think one of my biggest questions is, kind of the PD piece of this, specifically PD, like the PD, because it looks, I mean, how do we determine what they're paying as far as the overall?
On the revenue side. What we decided to do was combine these budgets, and then Chief Brooks is maintaining a spreadsheet in the background that shows what the costs are and what they're paying for. They're currently paying for 11 officers. So what he does generally is, let's say we have to pay, forget what it is, $80,000 to Dent County. He divides that out by the number of officers that we have, and then that is applied at 11 officers to Provinceville. So we're trying to keep that on a spreadsheet. We're not trying, we are keeping that on a spreadsheet. Displaying that out. So, because we need to be able to tell Providence Village and their council what they're actually paying for.
Right, so do we feel like they are responsible for only about 30% of our overall needs as a department? So if we talk about the amount of time that we spend, the resources that we spend protecting Providence Village, is that 29.5% of our police department's time and effort?
I haven't calculated it in time, I'm just going off the cuff. I would say it's more than that. But if, let's say we change, and they have their own police department, those same resources would move to help them. Because we back each other. And then they help us, the same files where those resources come in.
I'm just looking at the
They
overall.
get a lot of social media attention. But I don't know that it's so far off.
Because if I look at, kind of the calls, I know we publish those and we have that broken down, it does appear as though more than 30% of the calls that we're taking are from Providence Village, but if I look at the budget, they're paying 29.5% of our budget.
We're not doing it as a per call. We're factoring it as how many officers are they paying. And they're trying to stay 1 per 1,000. And on the Aubrey side, we're trying to stay 1.25 to 1.5. And that helps us get to that.
I want to be really cognizant of Aubrey citizens paying for police services in another city, and it does look like we are supplementing what's happening in Providence Village, just based off of number of calls that are happening, in Aubrey, and then what this budget actually works out to be. That's a concern of mine.
Their revenue question. All right, then very quickly, I can go over. We're going to go over a couple of things, the administration. The salaries line, excuse me, 01-5101, that is down, as Mike said, we moved HR out. And that includes the HR assistant that's working with Shayla right now is moving to. So that number is down. Under legal and professional, you see we have $400,000 in there this year. A portion of that was we did not need next year, however, so we reduced that by $100,000, but we're gonna have to bring that back by 50. We need to bring that back by 50,000 for a needs assessment. Initially, we had $200,000 in the admin budget to do a needs assessment for new city facilities. So we pulled that out, we pulled that 200 out, and then we made contact with RTGA. And we realized at that point that we had already entered into a contract with them for a needs assessment about a year ago. But our principal at RPGA passed away, and at that time, it was just to do one city building. It was $50,000, and RPGA, we've had such a good working relationship with them. They have agreed to do our full needs assessment on all buildings that we need for that $50,000. They don't want to renegotiate the contract, go up. They know we need multiple buildings in the future, and they have agreed to do it. Right now, that 50,000 is under capital expenditures. I'm going to ask Mike to move that back over to professional services, which will bring professional services back to 350. What did we have this year, professional services? I'm thinking of one-time cost this year. I'll think about it here when I explain. Yes, it's not gonna change. The technology on the next page, 5665075665. Current budget is 115. We're finished with our IT project that the council approved. However, we do need to have money in here for next year for Swaggit, for the council chamber, for the production of all the meetings. That number did go down slightly. The MDD has agreed to pay a portion of the Swaggit for using the council chamber. The MDD will move to the council chamber. They've agreed to pay their portion of Swaggit, and they will pay for a staff member, a trained staff member, to operate the council chamber for them. Which I think will be great for the MDD, because right now the executive director has to, what you have to produce your meeting, about 5 people in here working, they have one. She's trying to do it all and do the meeting at the same time. So I think this will work out better for you. And that's it, unless you have any questions for me on the admins. I just wanted to point those numbers out.
I did have one question on the community development line item. We're requesting 25,000. But it doesn't look like we're spending that much every year. Is there a project coming or?
Well, I have a note here to reduce that to 20, but I don't know exactly what we're going to be doing this year. I need to get a cost on our Armory Citizens University that we have. I don't have a final cost on that, so I kind of left it alone for the moment. Riley was keeping up with the costs, and I told her where I kind of wanted her to be, so that we didn't get outrageous on how we're doing that. But it was a very successful community outreach development that we have a lot of positive comments about it. So there's a number of things that come out of there. So if you look, we've added a meetings line and a marketing and promotions line. A lot of that money was coming out of community development, but we're trying to be more clear with where we're spending those funds under marketing and promotions, and I moved some other money. I have a note to reduce that to 20,000, but I want to wait a couple of weeks and get some more numbers in, but we will probably reduce that number at some point. But I guess the answer is no, nothing that I'm aware of is coming forward, but I'm not exactly sure what the council will want to do next year, so I just let the number alone.
Well, we need about 2,000 citizens straight.
We'll have another one in the fall. We're gonna have another one in the fall, in September. Have those people in the and go. It was fantastic. We already have an application. I like that they came in last week. So we're excited about that. So on the 29th, I'll let you know. I'll give you some numbers.
And if we move employee appreciation funds,
HR. Well, if there's no more administration questions, I guess we can move to the police department. with Chief Brooks.
Provided you vehicle mission, vision and values. Our accomplishments for 2023 will be completed. Exemption related to administrative dollars. Improve our efficiency and effectiveness. Improving. Figure modulus power engagement survey citizens and getting in contact with us. We without got that worked out. Just. About that. Being tracking the work time and see if it works well with it. See the system. Shift from. Give them one, two, it's the same to the next level. Next, for our goals for next year, will be, you know, get. Conceptual language.
Questions? Are those the orange ones that are highlighted here for 2025?
No, they need only.
You saw four that were gonna hire for 2025. Or two are vacant.
We talked about. whether the budget kind of did that. So the supplemental requests, the first one, is an incentive pay program. We would like to provide incentive pay to instructors. $25 per pay period, with total cost for instructor $50. We would like $50 per pay period. What those officers are doing is, in addition to their current work, they did a lot of someone who's in a situation. They're following their the person that ensure that supposed to have being forced to do it, trying to ensure whatever, you know, what they established for help. So it doesn't cause them issue. Legal pay $50 per pay period, for total for but we would like to compensate. Chip differential or $25 per chip. $50 per chip. Well, we would like to see of the 32,050 total. 20. Next supplemental is we're at a crossroads with our video system. Current companies are aware, and I'm providing you a lot of detail. Current company are aware as well. We are having some problems with watching. The current body camera that we have is no longer supported. We transferring to a different one. Also, we have a third body camera that we got 30 donated to the church. To implement those 30, we have to have 5. And then have the cloud storage to operate the system. People don't need 68,000. I don't really want to invest in 60. And then all of our watchdog unit on camera, majority of the watchdog are coming up on the unit lot. We've added new cameras along the way, and so there's 240. It's going to be a significant expense to the. So there are options in the expense. We decided that we would like to present to you all going to access system. That system, they're doing kind of like I discussed with you. They've adopted a program where basically lease their equipment for 5 years. Of course, in that 5 years or 2 years. Additional things So what we'd like to propose is entering into this contract with Axon. For the only one thing- only- Issue of the storage for all videos according to the scenes. In addition to that. So all that videos. System, collect all the video, attach it to the case and stuff. Additionally, the images from the phone transfers it to this account. There's no phone rights or no. But now. So we're addressing that, get that fixed, and this will system. Exxon's very well received that long. This program is being very received. Another additional function that is very exciting for me is I would have the ability to live stream into an officer. So situation, I can actually view what they're seeing. And ask them questions. Three different organizations. But if the officers. They would be. Offers a lot. Information. This guy, again, we have the. Okay, one of these instances we did a contract with us is that one we. That stage. It's just. Third supplemental is the crime victim advocate, the reason it's in still in flux. Yes.
While you're talking about that, Jennifer, so please decide that that's a direction you want to go. I would request if it's in the supplementals, and I'll put it under a recommendation to pay for it in fiscal year 24. I have a surplus that we have. I think it's a good program, and I think it'll cure a lot of issues that over the last 5 years I avoided. You know, I'm not a fan of WatchGuard, but it's what we have. And now that WatchGuard has decided they're going to discontinue servicing our units, and you know, it really drives me crazy. So I think it's a better program, but what I'm trying to do by paying for it out of fiscal 24 is we won't have a fiscal 25 payment that's due. The total on that's 205, I believe. 135 is the Aubrey portion, the other portion is 70-something thousand paid by Providence. Providence has already agreed at this council that says, yes, let's do this year. They will pay their portion this year as well. And what I talked to the company about was, we pay you now, we take delivery in November, and our renewal date is not until November 25, so you won't see another charge until fiscal 26. I was trying to get us, we've got so many things going on in fiscal 25, I was trying to keep that down. So just, I'm adding that here, because that's a supplemental conversation later, but while it's fresh on your mind, I'll let it. Go ahead, sorry.
Then the following is trying to get the back of it. Included it, we haven't been, we made it past the North Central Texas. Government state record. It's down. If it gets funded, there is a. Then the supplemental request that I would like to know to consider contingent on, let's see what happens with Central, with the contract relationship. Of 2 additional police officers in the code, a second company. Single code compliance officer we have. is done an amazing job with the sets and houses, garages, houses painted. It's done a great job. But we're now to the more complicated issue. And then with the high grass and all I get rid of that. Just simply. People are convinced. But I would like.
Because that's the fund that, right, the two people from the program.
Exactly. But the people that we're dealing with, they don't listen to great people. So. Right, but it just takes a lot of, since they don't listen, it takes a lot of. It's just. So.
To me, this goes back to Centurion. Centurion is the one that is contracted with Essex, which is the management. So as we're looking to work more closely with the developer, Centurion, we're just gonna, if this is what their standard is, that they go in and they hire Essex to do their, overseeing of the HOA. If we're starting to approve additional developments and they're gonna be doing the same thing, we're gonna have the same issues in new developments as well. This goes back to Centurion.
Charles has brought up. It's just for. The population. Similar cities out there. We got a complaint yesterday.
What do you?
So now what are we gonna do? There's a lot of that going on. Just.
I feel like we need to strengthen the development agreements. That it's not just gonna be that they're required to have an HOA and they're required to have these CCRs, but they're required to enforce them. Because it's all well and good to say, here's a piece of paper, sign that you know it, but if they're not doing anything about it, which is what's happened. And so now we have downtown Aubrey residents having to enforce, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make sense. Again, we're taking on something that we have contracted with, you know, Winrig, with Centurion to do this, and they're not following through. So now it's gonna fall back to the taxpayers to do it.
Our new development agreements contain language that puts it back on the developers if they do not. Because right now, as in Windridge, it's developer control, the HOA is still developer control.
Correct.
While they control it, we put some safeguards in place in this last DA or in this Centurion.
Yes. Previously, our attorney hasn't reviewed the HOA documents, but it is a requirement of our ordinance. So we've started that with all our new documents.
And Patricia put language in this last one that says you are responsible and it comes back to you as the developer if you're not enforcing the CCRs.
But another point around that is this. Yeah, the little company. That matters. How many places they are managing. How to choose. Shop. Now, I asked him. Everybody shows. How do you get people out? Service. I'm very encouraged. Feel the differences that. Also.
Specific to PV, so when we talk about they pay for 11 officers, how is that determined what officers? I mean, I feel like we're kind of going back to the whole AAA situation where they paid for a certain number of officers, but do they pay for detective time? I mean, how is that officer defined as far as what they reimburse us for?
We have specifically identified.
Okay,
So, like, two of the drill sergeants. Or some. And a certain number of which are. So those people are identified, so they're actually. Is used to calculate.
and fleet, that's all first. Fleet, gas. All expenses.
All those expenses are changed to them. My key.
Pete, does your budget number, does your revenue number include?
Let me not mean, I had to answer off the top.
I hate that.
So right now, their total proposed budget is 1.4333665. Of that, $37,266 is. So that $37,266 doesn't go to. So their monthly total is 119. The new officer that they agreed. Over number 1%. That vehicle is gonna pay this year. So the total was 1.5. But the difference between those two. Before I get my.
And then the fleet is dependent on these 11 officers, correct? So again, when we start looking at fleet, if they're utilizing more than 30% of the services, Aubrey residents are now also supplementing the fleet used to serve Providence Village, correct?
They're paying for those numbers.
11, but I'm just saying, we've got way more than 11 employees. And so if they're using more than 30% of the police resources as a whole, it's more than just this additional cost, right? It's more than just the salary piece. There's a lot of other pieces that go into that.
If they're charged personnel material, repairs and maintenance, utilities, contract services. All those things lie. Let's take the gas budget.
At 30% is what I'm saying. So if they're utilizing more than 30% of our police department resources, Aubrey residents are supplementing.
I don't know how we would quantify what they're using. If we use calls for service, I think it would be somewhere in the 40% range. But what the difference between the 30 and the 40, is that a value to us? To have a police department that has 11 more people that is available to us, because at any given time, there could be a call in Aubrey that requires every officer that we have, it requires to respond. Vice versa, the same thing could occur in Providence Village. So that's what we have talked about for the past 5 years, is we're stronger together because we can build a bigger, better police department with this partnership that we have. I don't know how we would quantify it. Because I would be afraid to just use calls for service, because that's not a true metric, because in Providence Village, we have a huge see something, say something program in Providence Village, excuse me, which would skew the calls.
Well, are we going out to the calls though?
Yes, we do
So
go,
that doesn't skew it, because that's actual work.
correct. So, but it skews that number because we're pushing them to call us more.
But you're going, is what I'm saying. So because you're going, that's actual work. So that is how you determine how much time and effort is spent there, is the number of calls. So if we start looking at what 30% versus 40% of this 4.7, I mean, it's another $500,000 that Aubrey residents are supplementing to pay for what's happening in TV. And I don't know what that number is, but I'm guessing we can look over the last 12 months, the last 6 months, the last 8 months and say, TV is responsible for X% of our overall calls and for service. And because of that, this number needs to change. They're utilizing more than these 11 officers. They're utilizing more time. And I understand that we need to be good stewards and we would respond and have more, and there's gonna be those exceptions. Just like there's gonna be times that there's more people needed downtown and, we're gonna pull from Little Elm, or we're gonna pull from wherever we need. We're gonna go up to Pilot Point, right? Those are the exceptions. What I'm saying is we have data, years of data, that shows the percentage of calls that are in, Windridge, Aubrey versus Providence Village, and that is how we're spending our time. So that's how our budget should be spent.
I have a note to. Let's keep it.
That's something that's always been around since, at least since I've been. Aubrey always been. I'm with you on the fairness.
But at some point, they have a line. for a lot of things. And they have to have their own person. So, where that line is, I don't know.
Okay, but if 15 of our officers are really over there, we don't have a 21, we have a 17 person department, because they would be helping us even if they were now, employees of Providence Village. If we had things that happened, we're gonna help them and they're gonna help us just like we do now.
So when you said a word earlier, aside, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page when we say aside. That's a budget.
I agree. Yes.
Just strictly for budget. Those officers are not assigned there. They are, that's a beat. And X number of officers are in that beat at any given time, just like Glen Ridge is. And officers are there. I do want to be careful and look at some other metrics other than just cost of service. Because I think that is.
We had to come up with some kind of.
Your other contract services, like for instance, Silverado pays us for police service. We don't have officers assigned to them. Does that impact this discussion?
Yes, no, that's just part of the problem. You mean assigned as in budget?
Well, if you assume that 11 officers are dedicated to Provinceville, that means the rest of them have to cover all these other areas. I
That's
know,
not the way that works.
I know. It's a co-mingle.
You're talking about budget wise, like for budget wise, we take 11 out, which means the other group would also be covering maybe Sandrock and Silverado and those things from a budget perspective, not from a actual. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying that cost is commingled. To segregate it and treat it as a discrete cost doesn't take into account the other things that these officers are doing. So from a budget perspective, it may not be as simple as saying it's a calls. Without taking into account the other calls that we do outside of market. So it's kind of commingled, right? Why they're having a little trouble
And it's gonna be
allocating.
very difficult to say that all of Silverado. In that, it's a subtraction from what we're saying. Resources come. It gets really complicated, but I just thought.
No, I think that makes sense. I mean, I think we should have metric that says, this is how our resources are allocated. And whether that's the number of calls, or we're looking at feeds, or we're looking at whatever that is, let's have something that we don't just say it's 11 officers. Let's look at some actuals. What are we doing in Silverado? And it doesn't have to be calls. It could be how many times we're going through. I mean, we have all that data now. So I just want to make sure that we have facts that we're using to put a budget together, and we don't just keep doing it because we've always done it that way.
Well, I don't think we're doing that at all. We have made minor tweaks to this along the way. The number continues to grow, and I want to also share that Providence Village is a slight increase over time. They move their calls do not increase dramatically. The Aubrey side of this, so when we talk about Aubrey, we're talking about the Aubrey and the main part of town, we're talking about Windridge, we're talking about Sandrock Ranch, we're talking about Silverado. All of these people pay us a contract fee. We don't do any of them by call. So it's those numbers are dramatically going. So I think what you'll see over time is, if we go back and look at it, you're going to see that whatever that percentage is that Providence is utilizing is going down, because these other calls are pushing that down as we go forward. So anything that we do at this point, going that direction could actually lower that, and then we would have to go to another entity to say we need the money.
Well, when I look at this, the budget overview, the amount that we're allocating to Providence Village is a 9.3% increase. The amount of the part that we're allocating to Aubrey is a 21.8% increase. increase year over year. So if we have a 5% salary increase and we have a 15% for TRMS and insurance and things, I don't understand how you can get to a 9.3% increase for those officers.
There's more officers on the Aubrey side than the Providence side, so even though you're having an increase in salary, there's 20 officers there, there's 11 over here, so you would see
A different percentage.
I would think so, yes. Because you have
Well,
different,
percentages are flat, it should be whatever's being allocated, the percentage is the same. The dollars are gonna be different, but the percentage will be the same. So if we take a blended rate of the 5% for salaries and the 15% for TRMS, say it's 10%. So both of these would increase by 10%.
But on the Aubrey side,
We're adding officers.
we had a code compliance. which don't have
correct.
Okay.
There's a bunch of officers. We do that, but have that same on those budget only officers that are selected.
Maybe we could just not limit it. You know, these application going forward.
And
We
then
have the data.
I'll tell you about the map we have not really created. Actually, that will more. On why the consistent. CAD system. We're not comparing. Comparing apples to so they have agreed to go back. Do a monthly, it's gonna give us. More than three, until August. We're not comparing that. Just not making sense. So between now and August, they've agreed to. Work. with the- this generated year system that captures all the things I need. And in August. They have. Disconnect and change it. And try.
So the numbers that we're reporting now, we don't think are accurate.
Well, they're accurate, but they're not being not being coded the same. In Mark 43, that they were in. So a code that provided X information. Is providing this, and it's not the same. Particularly the thing that it's most often is. Officer initiated. So the officer sees a. Calls it out. It's now in Mark 43. Depending upon the scope of the. Dispatcher. Means classified as a call for service, not officer initiated. So if you see on the ones that are approaches about negative. Service was 2 weeks ago, which are 290 calls for service and 17 arrests and one. Record week, and most of those were officer initiated. This number showing. This is what. So the county was always not as often. Trying to get all that worked out. You know. And they do. Anytime you change your metric gathering system. Just for your knowledge about this. This is every line in the budget, blue is Aubrey. And blue is Providence. So whatever that thing is how.
Everyone's here now.
It does feel kind of heavy, doesn't it? This feels like lots.
There was a big bump when you set that down.
One more question, I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
So we were back on the record. Did we have an idea, from the Denton ISP, what their plan is for school resource officers next year? Like, are they gonna have, actual school resource officers in all elementary schools?
The information that I got is they're continuing that program, but they are beginning to buy or hire what they're calling armed something. And they've hired 11 so far, and they intend to do that moving forward. All indications are it will remain the same this year.
So are they funding 100% of the school resource officers that we currently have on staff?
They are funding a portion. 75% of the salaries, 100% of expenses. The vehicle.
So one of the reasons I'm asking is half of one bridge just got rezoned to Paloma Creek. And so I don't believe that they actually have a school resource officer. Is that something we could look into and see what they have at that elementary school? That's what half of our operators are thinking. Right? With the third time they've been rezoned.
Yes, I can check it. There. It was my understanding that they had an armed person in school, but I will check. They did.
That's not.
No. But I did research, of the 116 kids that were affected by that rezone, 90 have asked to stay at Sandrock and were allowed to stay there. So only 26 of those kids will be going to work.
But then we'll have whoever's doing it now. Or if you come of age now. So I'll-
Good morning, Mayor, members of council. Got the fire department presentation ready. Pretty straightforward this year. Our main focus throughout the meet opening of Fire Station 3 and the relocation of Fire Station 3. In the presentation, I've included again our mission and core values of stats from 2023. Our goals that we had for this current budget year were to create a strategic plan. We're still working on that. Create a major tools and equipment replacement schedule. We haven't done that yet. Begin recognition through CATS, which is the ambulance accreditation process. We're about 25% through with that. There's a lot that goes into both of those, the fire recognition and the ambulance recognition. So we're working every day to get closer, but we're at about 25% on both of them. And the biggest issue was policies and procedures. We're having to rework everything kind of from the ground up to get into a position to be ready for recognition. There's no reason to jump in and start having to say that we like all of this. We're doing all that work on the front end, so that the process is a matter of rubber stamping. Provide additional certification training for personnel. We successfully met that, and then update and standardize our local agreements. I don't have to tell you all that we touched a great many of those, and work continues there, but I've got that down at 75%. As rough as some of our situations are, we're actually in a really good spot, and we cleaned up a lot of them and improved our boilerplate style agreement, so that it's much better for the city and the department. Our highlights for this year, we completed successfully the striker lease, which brought in all the new medical equipment to the ambulances, which was very much needed and is already paying off in lives today. We updated our fire code recently. We're 90% done with the remodel of Fire Station 1. And if you have time before you leave today, I welcome you to go over and take a look in the living area. If you remember it from before, it doesn't look anything like that now. So we're getting there.
It's been a process, especially when you're living through it and you can't stop. Our block never stopped rolling, so hard to remodel when you're living there too. We began construction on Fire Station 3. We designed, bid, and began construction on Fire Station number 2. We purchased our new squad. 5 personnel have successfully completed paramedic training. We are still on track to have IV robotics this summer for our medical protocol, start cleaning in on ambulances. And we are in the process of updating our standard operating procedure. Goals for next year, or this coming budget year, to successfully hire our personnel for Fire Station number 3. We've already got our application process out, and we've got about 60 applicants, which is big time numbers for us. And a lot of them are really good. So we're already seeing a change in the type of applicant that we attract. So I think it's going to pay off for us in the long run. I don't think we have a lot of trouble hiring people after they do. We want to see the completion of construction of Fire Stations 2 and 3 in this coming budget year. Assume the plan review and systems inspection responsibility. Currently, we outsource both of those features. We fully expect our new fire marshal to take those on. Negotiate new service contracts with our strategic partners. Finish developing our strategic planning department, and then finish up with the other 2 that we haven't finished from last year. Which are becoming recognized with CAS and PSCA, and creating major tools and equipment replacement schedule. So I broke down the budget a little bit different and kind of just pulled our section out from the main pages. The numbers match, but I wanted to explain a couple of things that we did and to kind of because we put money in 2 different places in the fire department. So we segregated all costs that we believe are going to be associated with the opening and onboarding of Fire Station 3, with the exception of the Plan B personnel. So in the budget, the extra sheets I gave you, these are a little cleaner than the ones in the presentation. A little bit bigger, so you can see them a little bit better. But the third column from the right, the first one with the yellow, the 2024-25 proposed budget. That budget is what you see in your other budget pack from mine. And the only thing that it includes from Fire Station 3 are the Plan B personnel. And the Plan B plan for personnel, which is if SAFER is not awarded, that plan is to hire 9 positions in January, 6 positions in June. And then we would hire the remainder to the next budget. And so that's we're calling it Plan B, but really I call it Plan C, because even in that time, we would have another opportunity to apply for SAFER a 3rd time if we're not successful this year, which we would do so in keep time. But I think we have a really good chance this year. They have not started awarding permission yet. So they were a month late on the applications from the normal application period. And it says on their site that they started awarding in the summer, with the last award being no later than September 30th. So we'll know before the budget actually takes effect, whether we got it this time or not, but it might be close. We might already have to have some other decisions in place, but it may come in and help us with our staff. Late because of process.
What does it do?
This, yeah, so we had to have a plan B in place of what it looks like. And that's, I think, optimistically, that we probably open Station 3. I'm hoping to do first. But that's with not many more delays than what we've already seen. It could be a little bit later than that. Reason. So, bringing 9 on in January, that still gives plenty of time to train people up, get them all ready. So we can at least tap open the station ready to go. Bring on the other 6 and get it to school year. So the proposed budget, we've got the plan. 9 people staggered over, or 15 people staggered over the course of the year. The only other increases in there are the 5% assumption on the pay increase. There's no other increase in that budget from there. If you look to the next column over 2024-25 proposed 407, that's where we segregated all of station 3 costs. And we broke out costs from all of the line items going down through the budget of money that we think it's gonna cost that we can associate with fire station number 3. So we split things, and so some of them, if it didn't result in an increase, but we split the money out just for tracking. So a good example of that is training, travel and training. Our previous year's budget was 73,100. We left 33,100 in the regular, and then moved 40 over to station 3 because we know we're gonna spend a lot of money on doing those personnel. But there's no net gain, we just move the money so that we have it in the spot where we want to see it. So that last column kind of shows you the overall increases in each line item. If it went up. So if it's yellow, it's higher than the previous year. If it's yellow in the first column, it's in our standard general fund 101 budget. If it's yellow in the second column, it's in that proposed station 3 budget. Saying all that, when you flip to the back page of this, the 2 numbers that really matter are down at the bottom. So our general fund 101 budget comes up to 7.3 million. We have 525,000 in that station 3 area, and that brings us up to the 7.9 million. The increase from last year is 1.2 million. And of that 1.2, $1,094,000 is all related to personnel. So that's the additional position and or the 5% rate. And then operating dollars, money outside of people, is 138,000. So very economical on the 138. You know, we're triggering 3 months of operation of the station, so the utilities are low. We won't know. Those are all just better than a lag on what we think it's gonna cost. Because we're building a high efficiency station, so it's hard to guess at what we're gonna pay for electricity, what we're gonna pay for water, all those things. And so we have money in there, we think it'll cover. I think we're gonna overperform what we put in there to be conservative. So I think it'll be less than what we have put in there. So that's the budget as it sits for next year. We only have 3 supplemental requests. One of them is a surprise. I think only Charles and I know that I'm going to ask for today because I didn't get it in time to let Mike know. But our first supplemental request is to add a position in the fire department. It would be to add an emergency management coordinator position. After watching the events a couple of weeks ago and the response to that disaster, the tornado event on the north end of Denton County, south side of Cook County, and then what happened over in Collin County. It certainly brings to light that we need somebody that's fully focused on our own needs in terms of emergency management. This new position would be responsible for the creation and maintenance. Priority number 1 would be the creation and maintenance of a state-approved emergency plan. And currently, everything in the realm of emergency management is all handled by Denton County. And they do a fine job. But their focus is Denton County, not Alton. And so you get, the plan becomes more applicable when it's written just for that one single jurisdiction. So the emergency plans in Texas are divided into annexes, and each annex is a different topic. Weather, hazardous materials, flooding, all the different things that, all the calamities that could possibly befall on the community. And then inside that plan is how you handle it. Well, at the county level, it's a macro level of how they're going to respond and handle things. It's, we're going to do A, B, C, and D, but it doesn't say who or how much you have. When you do it at a community level, it's more of a micro level, and you can actually identify the conditions, the reason, you control what, how you manage it. You can build in all your forms ahead of time. And so you see the trouble that Pilot Point had and the difficulties they had in getting organized and managing cleanup. All those things, if they have their own plan, it's a little bit cleaner and the lines are clearer. And that would certainly be a benefit. On a daily basis, now this position would handle preparedness and mitigation strategies for the city while organizing and conducting training and drills for all departments in the city, provide public education and enhance communications with the community. When a disaster occurs, this position coordinates activities and serves as the liaison between the city and Denton County, the state of Texas, and the federal government to ensure the city has the appropriate resources in this situation. So, once you have an emergency plan, you have to keep it up to date. So you divide your annexes out by the 12 months, and you're always working on the next revision of each of those annexes. This position would chase money all the time. There's always money available. So just like this event that happened, in a couple of months, the government, the federal government, whatever they allocated for this disaster, there'll be money left over. And whatever's left over gets opened up into the hazard mitigation side of the program. So anybody that has projects in the hazard mitigation side can go for that money. So say there's $10 million left over. They'll divide it up amongst anybody that has hazard mitigation projects ready to go. And so having somebody full-time that's keeping those projects up to date, ready to go, it gets quite a bit easier to get a hold of some of those mitigation dollars. And those are generally 100% funded. You go after the money, it can be any project that mitigates the severity of a disaster in the community. So one of the biggest ones is drainage. That's really easy. There's a direct correlation between how well you drain and how severe flooding. So you put all your drainage projects in your hazard mitigation plan. Those dollars come around, you start applying, you get them, you spin up a project and execute it. And this position would help us be more ready. All those things are available to us today. We just don't necessarily have the horsepower to put enough man hours into it with all the other things that are going on. So having somebody that's doing that is one of the main functions, I think, would be very beneficial to the city. And then, of course, I hate to even bring it back up because it hasn't been mentioned here too, but this position will also help with the operation or operating. And then add it to the vehicle replacement schedule going outward. And so this would be for a single UTV side-by-side type vehicle with 2 interchangeable beds. So it can be configured, one for firefighting, and then the other configuration would be for medical, vertical transportation and some medical equipment. So I've given you this isn't the exact model, but they're good pictures of what it looks like. The first picture is the firefighting setup. And so it carries between 50 and 75 gallons of water and it has a little pump. And it can go places that our brush trucks cannot go. So in that urban interface area, so imagine the western side of Wind Ridge, where you have a flood on the bottom that's all wildland interface with the neighborhood. And then here in town, up in the Devil Ranch area, where you have a lot of draws and ravines that are difficult to navigate, this vehicle would help us there. And then on the other side, the other bed configuration, medical side, we already see this. This would be utilized at community events, event festival, any parade, football game. And then also on any of our trail systems, anywhere we can't take a neighbor, which is a lot of places. This just makes us, this would give us more ability to transport. The Green Belt walking trail, we have those calls pretty regularly, it's difficult to navigate. So this would help a lot. Ultimately, the goal would be to have two different vehicles. One that's set up in the fire configuration, one that's set up in the medical, and there'd be no need to interchange them. But I think this is a good step in, is just to have one vehicle, two beds.
How do you transport them to where they need to get?
A trailer, we buy the trailer and go with it, and you go by either the battalion or the bottom of the flood. Either one would be capable. The trailer is, but not the, I mean, we already have the vehicle. But, we would station it here. And I think the plan would be to leave it off the trailer here, so that we could do things locally and quickly. When we get to having two, the plan would be to have one station two. Here. So I keep the fire one out there, because I'm more concerned with the wildland interface and the medical one here, to really more against that. Football games, stuff like that. And this is very expensive for side by side, but the bulk of the cost are to specialty. But those aren't the negative.
I think I'm thinking some of the people talking about. Outside.
And nearly all of them have interface issues because they're popping up in an area that's not developed. So normally on three, if not all four sides, are surrounded by a wildland interface where you have houses or rows of houses that right past their back fences. Potentially unkept land that grows up and then does cause that fire with it. So would be used immediately, I think. Oh, yeah, we would. Yeah, we can put that thing out. It would look some kind of impressive, not like some of the other ones you see. And then the surprise request number 3, we took a shot and tried to recondition the apparatus bay for across the street at Station 1 when we did the facility paint. We painted the outside and the inside of the bay. We had the painter try to put down an epoxy based product on the floor. We didn't pay a lot for it, and we knew we had a limited shot at it working, but it has already failed. And so the only way to really do it is to do it right and to do one of two things. Grind the floor and apply a much more robust epoxy product, or grind the floor and polish and clean it. And so I'd like to see if we can do that. We've done a lot to make the station look very nice. Really cool, like, proper station for the department. And they are very proud of it. The floor is one floor spot. If you watch our tires when we pull out, there's always a little piece of the floor stuck to the tires. I would prefer to grind it and seal it. Every epoxy I've ever seen, even the really good stuff, it will eventually fail. So it won't look perfect, because if you grind it, whatever is under there is what's there, and then you seal it. But, maybe that's kind of a bad one, you know, it's got a few cracks and some bruises, so we. Yeah, so. Yeah.
So some of these, there's three. It would be dependent a little bit on the state, but if you get it. Year.
Yes, so the bay floor, one-time cost, we shouldn't have to retouch that. The UTV, we've got it in the schedule for 10 years, so it'll be a one-time expense for a while. Other than just some really minor maintenance oil changes, things like that. But the emergency management division will absolutely be reoccurring costs. And the number I put in, I added benefits, so that number is everything. No, I think we'd be under that. Yeah, it's an up to you.
You have space at, station 1 for 2 of the,
Mine's fixed.
and I'm just thinking if the state grant does come through and some of these other things kind of work themselves out, I don't know, I think we're going to be in a position where. Yeah.
I would think that we're, you know, there's a pretty decent lead time on it. So I don't think we'd be that terribly far off from the station building.
Right.
From the time we would get them and get the service, so I don't think we'd have to have too very long over here before station 2 and station 3 opens.
I'm thinking 75 this year, it's 85 or 85 next year, like they're not going down. So if we do have some of these basic funds that are coming in, I especially kind of moving forward, there might be a little bit of cost savings, which is a.
Yes, we wouldn't be under that total number, but it would be quite a bit less. We didn't price it that way. But yes, it would be cheaper to buy fixed beds without the change out system built in. Because you have to have that, you gotta be able to lift it off and. I think we probably got closer to 110 because we're going to do it.
I now on your request page, I have it as a recommended purchase from the.
What? Like Polaris, or do you not have? There we go.
So,
Yeah. So that's all that I have. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Chief mentioned that we're very attuned to our revenue scenarios that we have with all our contracts. Trying to work those out. That final answer yet, but I do think we cannot. While we program the darkest version of events, I don't think that's what we're doing. Thank you very much for your time. On Saturday.
We're a little loud.
I know you're. In, right?
Well, let's not get crazy with that all part. I'm kidding, I love cheese.
You're very well familiar with it. Okay, so, thank you for coming this morning. I've got a hopefully quick and easy presentation on the proposed budget. I made it simple, don't have a fancy presentation, just want to give you some of the bullet pointed highlights of what our increases and decreases in the items are. We are for program goals for budget. So our total budget projected income is $1 million. And our total. We have projected revenue for sales tax included of our interest income and our rental income from our recent. We also included travel and training that includes some certifications for. The printing line is new. That is so that we can separate out some of the printing costs we have with professional printing, out of the Williams marketing, creating awareness, as well as the MAPS program. We will get that separated out. Our building maintenance and utilities increase, obviously, this increase the property and. So we are also seeing a decrease that in professional, and that even includes us paying for Friday meetings. So that was a more actual figure that we. $5,000 increase in maps. This is for an online GIS interactive map on the site right now. You cannot really interact with on that. Still on that. It's not. We have those flat PDFs of our plan developments, but nothing. So we really need to be a little more connected to the GIS mapping system and some of those features with that. So working on street planning, some of those interactive and technical features. Administrative fees, Charles mentioned earlier, that includes the staff, the work, the staff is trying to work with dues and memberships, just a $1,500. As well as commercial realtors, events, and activities. The marketing and advertising didn't make the increase. That was due to needing additional marketing and sponsorships that help create awareness for the entities locally, and especially like those stakeholders and the community shapers that we call them. We are able to sponsor some of our local activities that would have a lot of those folks in their businesses. It helps us with creating more awareness in the work. So that includes that, plus more advertising. Saw magazines coming out. We also plan to enhance some more digital marketing. We have a property purchase line in there, of course, that's, it'll always change, never know what it's gonna be, but there are times that there is a need for us to purchase infrastructure or need. That grant match, as you know, we updated the targeted improvement policy, which allowed, past, it was a $20,000 match. We increased it to a $30,000 match. And those funds, if we were to give out 5 grants a year, the maximum $30,000 match, that would go out for under. So depending on the size of the grant, some of those. Top here, again, new line, just because as we grow, we keep doing more proposals and other program functions, we do need a little have to be involved. And then meetings is a new line item for this process that get associated with hosting meetings, whether it be meals or food. That is, continuing to look for opportunities to develop. That need a little bit of help, so that's what our goal is. Help these businesses that are here. I've had some calls recently. Not we have a big. Like that, some of that.
So that's just an added reason for our growth.
Well, true.
Yeah, that's true.
I hate the thing too.
Mayor, do you mind if I take you? I did this at their last meeting. I was going to overview what happened over the last year. And not have those regis and really good forward. So just to give you just a few of those things that for Christine and the board, Christine advised to rework their targeted improvement grant. The previous grant did not stipulate exactly, so it's not clear on the grant. Went from taking that 8 or 9 pages, and it's very informative information. It tells a lay person what they need to know. Do want to grant, what they'll pay for, what they won't pay for, and it was very informative. And I think she did a great job. And before that, Christine has developed a number of very important connections with developers. These are high-level developers that have Christine's cell phone number and call her regularly to find out what it is that Aldridge wants to need. I thought it was very important going out that one of those, I don't want to name the company, but one of those companies invited Christine to be in their booth here in the ICSC Red River, and she was able to make connections there with one of our board. They attended that in January, and I thought it would cost Christine a unique $1,500 to have a booth made by her to be in their booth. So she got to set up all of the stuff there in that booth. Christine has worked to create, publish, review, and award and facilitate comprehensive and strategic plans. She and Leanne worked tirelessly to get this done, and that is in progress right now. Earlier, when I said there was something in the administration budget under professional services that I forgot, that's what it was. That was the 100,000 that we took out this time. Christine is going to be entering the Certified Texas Economic Development Program. She's already done 2 prerequisite classes, and she'll be entering that this year. Christine worked to secure the purchase of the park store the mayor just mentioned a few minutes ago. That is a revenue stream for the industry in the future. Christine has regularly attends the chamber luncheon that happens each month and other business events that occur. She's doing that now. But usually 3 of our board members are going. Aaron, Mike Browning, and Holly. They are really ramping up their work for the city, going to meetings and meeting with people. I've seen Holly and Mike and Fort Bank, or Tim Heitman, the new member, they go to the Fort Bank Business Breakfast every other month. They're making these connections. The mayor was at the chamber meeting last week and he saw, or this week, he saw that happen. I mean, all these board members are up talking to all these business people. It's just fantastic. I really appreciate it. These are volunteers just like you, and they're getting out there, they're really getting the grant and working for all of you. We really appreciate it. The board has done those, they're participating in that, the chamber luncheon, great opportunity for business. Mike and Holly attended last fall TML with me, with Christina and I. It was a great opportunity for us. I would love to see you council go. Some of you go this year if you can in October. You can make arrangements, just let us know, we'll get you set up. Sales tax workshop. Holly, Mike, and Christine attended the sales tax workshop. I told the board at their last meeting that they should be very proud of their accomplishments that they've had over the last year. From going from not having an executive director to having somebody like Christine who's really putting forth the effort for Aubrey is just fantastic. And the board should really be proud of it. I just wanted to hit those accomplishments for you and kind of outline that. This budget kind of tells a story of really working with them. Proud of it.
And I do have a packet here, just so y'all can see. It's just a packet of most of the materials that we've been producing that I'm giving to businesses when I do visit with them. It has actually an explanation of what is an MDD, because I'm finding that a lot of people don't understand an MDD and the difference, and they don't understand what we can do to help local businesses that are on here. So it's been a good educational process. There's still a lot of education to do, but I think they're happy to know that we have.
I'd like to figure out a way to do some marketing with that. It says economic development. You got to figure out a way to do that. Because you know, EDC is economic development corporation. MDD is different. We need to do some kind of marketing. MDD, economic development. Maybe give it out.
Yeah, we could use some branding, so for sure, that's one of my goals too, is to work on some consistent branding and get us to the level. We see that.
Thank you for calling. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your support. Things move slow sometimes. We just need to be told. Dirt into the ground.
Thank you.
Who's there? Paint us next.
Throw it on you.
Golden block.
Saturday will forever be associated.
You sound like a slacker. Wasn't that?
Nobody ever talked about it.
Just had a busy June. Let's start off talking about the accomplishments within the department. Coming in, I did notice there was some shortfalls within the department, so we did reach compliance within the human resource department. As you all know, we updated the employee handbook. This was a huge undertaking. It actually started with AJ back at the end of 2022. We had a committee, they met multiple times, they got their feedback. Of course, you guys approved the updated handbook, but it's still not finished. There's still forms and things that need to be created, so it was a very big project. We also implemented NeoGov. This is our new applicant tracking and onboarding system. So now employees or applicants can go online and fill out an application versus having to fill out an application on paper. In addition, there's an onboarding portal. So when they get hired on, they have some information to look at before they actually start. They can look at our benefits, look at our payroll, look at our holidays, things like that. This is the first year that we completed the Affordable Care Act reporting. This is reporting on information based on our benefits as required. This is the first year we completed that successfully. I have created a human resource page on our website. This might seem minimal, but I feel like it's really important. I can tell you when I first was looking at working here, the first thing I did was to go online to see more about operator. There was no HR website, so I was kind of surprised by that. So it's definitely something that I felt like we needed. And then we're currently working with Encode to create an employee portal. This portal will allow employees to go online and print out their paycheck stubs. Currently, we have individuals who have to print out every paycheck stub. They stuff in the envelopes, then hand deliver them. So it's costing the city, the employee's time, plus the cost of printing and paper and envelopes. So this will really cut back on that. So it's definitely would be an improvement. In addition to that, it's without fail, the week after those paychecks are handed out, they still reach out and say, I need a copy of it. So I'm not sure what they do with those paychecks. So to make it up, but they definitely don't pay much for that. Some of the goals that I identified for 2025, we would like to implement an electronic timekeeping system. So currently we are using paper timekeeping. Again, this is another very time consuming process. CLR has to manually enter everyone's time to the system. In addition, there's also a lot of room for error and inconsistency. So I think implementing an electronic timekeeping system will take out that. We would like to implement a total compensation statement. We have a very generous benefit plan here at the city, so we want employees to recognize that and see it. So basically, if you're not familiar with what that is, it's a statement. It has their salaries, but along with everything else that the city provides for them. So it shows them their total compensation and not just their salary. I'd like to look into finding a more efficient background check. This was something that Charles actually brought up when I first started. I just haven't had the time to find it. I think the company we're currently using isn't probably the best. If it's an employee who has multiple names and have lived in other states, most recently this employee cost almost $400 to do that check. So it's probably not the best company for using. So it's definitely something that I'd like to look into. Because of our size, we do have to report on EEO4 data, so we have to report on race and ethnicity. Once an entity reaches 100 employees at something, we just squeaked by for 2023 because we hired our 100 employees just after the tracking period. But it's every other year, so starting 2025, we'll need to start reporting on that. It's not just race and ethnicity. I have to make sure that every position is identified in the appropriate function and category, so we can sufficient information. And then the last goal I've identified is I think we need an exit interview. So when employees leave, we can identify why they left, if there's anything we can do different to try and help retain our workforce. So this upcoming budget year, I have requested a new employee. It's an HR generalist. This would be a mid-year request. So as mentioned before, David Bruce is currently assisting both me and the police department. The police department would like to bring him on full-time and move him over to Station 3. Leaving me with a need for an HR generalist. I know you're very aware of the growth within the city, but since the HR department's workload is directly affected by the headcount, I just wanted to put a number out there for you guys. So back in December of 2020, we had 72 employees. Next year, at the end of next year, we're expected about 145, give or take a few, depending on how many positions you approve. So that's in 5 years to double the workforce. And then just to put a statistic out there, the Society of Human Resources, there was a benchmark study of human capital in 2022, and they reported for every HR position, the average is 1.7 HR individuals per 100 employees. So we're right in par with the average to get a division. The responsibilities for this HR journalist would include recruiting. So posting the position online, screening applicants, setting up phone screens, things like that, onboarding, things like creating their personnel file. When employees are brought on, we have to enter them into between 6 and 7 websites, so they would be doing that. In addition, Charles would like to move payroll from the finance department to the HR department, so this employee would be helping with that. And then general just employee assistance, making sure that employees get answers they needed as quickly as possible. I think the big focus for the HR department is to make sure employees get the answers they need resolved as quickly as possible, so they're able to go back to work. Recently, I had an employee come to me and she was like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here. This is the 3rd time I came by." That's not really the environment we want. We want to help them as soon as possible so they can get back to work. Hopefully that will be able to reach that goal.
I want to add to that on the general side. If you see this recruiting, onboarding, payroll, general employee assistance, that kind of thing. Currently Shayna's doing all that. We're growing to the point with this 145 employees that Shayna needs to be dealing with majors. You know, if we have an employee issue that comes up, it may take a week of her time, you know, to deal with. But it could be an issue, needs her undivided attention for an extended period of time. And we don't have the ability right now for her to step back from these onboardings and general employee assistance and recruiting for her to be able to interact with that stuff. So that's another reason for this.
And then last thing, I just wanted to identify some of the changes to the budget, especially since it's a new budget. I just wanted to identify some of the bigger issues, well, bigger relative to my budget size at least. So drug testing, so previously the drug tests were in each individual's department. It really did not make sense to do that, so we pulled it all into the HR department. That budget line did go down slightly, based on the overall needs of the previous budget. The budget line for benefits administration is for total compensation statement that I mentioned, so that is a new expense. Technologies is a previous expense, that's for our NeoGov software that we use for our applicant tracking, something we're currently using. The employee appreciation, like we mentioned earlier, is just a transfer into the HR department. There is a slight increase, but that's to look at the additional headcount. We have to pay for the food and gifts for the employees. And then tuition reimbursement is a new expense. As you guys remember, that was something that was included in the approved changes to the handbook. So if the $25,000 gets approved, that would allow at least 5 individuals to get the tuition reimbursement, maybe more if they don't get the full amount. Yeah, we have gotten a quote from Encode, it was about $5,000, so not a significant. Well, Encode just makes more sense. I don't have anything opposed to it, but.
This is a new department. We pulled it off of administration, most of the costs were already in the budget. We just transferred it over. The new employee is a request. That would be, as Shane said, that would be a mid-year replacement. A mid-year request. I want to thank Shane for what she's done. As you see these accomplishments that we have here, these are things that really need. And she hit the ground running, really got those things back to it.
Well, it's not the cover that expense is still with administration, so. Yeah.
We would do that as a tech, we would take it out of tech. We don't do it. And that would be, we just do it in.
He certainly is.
Even though what you talked about Saturday.
So, Mayor, you're at a crossroads, we can continue with parks and streets development, but not in a project. we still would have to come back on the 29th for Leanne's Day, capital improvement, wastewater treatment plant, water and sewer, and I made a note here, and library. And I made a note here that maybe we have Jim come to the workshop instead of the council meeting. That way it doesn't take up the time of the council meeting on the 27th, because I had asked Jim myself to carve out some time on the 27th to come explain the wastewater treatment plant bonding process and what it, how that. So if y'all want to continue on another hour or so, the problem is the majority of this sheet is streets and parks. And if you really don't have the basis from the end on the streets and parks, we would have to wait to look at this until the 29th. We could cover some of the items on here. If you really want to look at this as the whole.
I'd like to go with you. I mean, they talk about the one item out.
Yes.
That would- that would be good.
You can direct that.
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Right.
A lot of this stuff is just really, it's just housekeeping and things that need to be done. It's just, I'll explain that to you. I'll let you.
I did put this together last night. There's one type of some part. Hopefully not.
They say, I'll read it, they've been here about 10 or 15 years, and they all read it. Yeah.
Thank you, your assistant for many years. That.
That one might not help, right? I don't know.
6 months.
Might have to sit with me.
It's about the time. The remodel will have.
We'll take turns sitting at my desk. You get this shift, I get that.
We're gonna find this. Water. No, CBS has water. We need to-
Yes, I've been going to, I'm speaking.
Well, we probably don't have enough, but. Well, that person, he or she would not after they. For now, but eventually, since you asked that question, I'm not interrupting.
No, we're waiting.
The conference room will become 2 offices. It's going to become one, a larger and then a smaller, and Shana will be in the larger portion next to the windows, and her generalist would be in a smaller office. No, it wouldn't have a window.
Yeah.
Lots of offices, they don't have windows.
Or you could end up with a prison window, like Shane.
Yeah.
You know, you have to get on your tippy toes and look. I'd like for this to be skylight, Leanne's office, right? Remove these doors and then go in that. so I don't have to make the trip.
Sometimes we make it numerous times.
Yeah, we chase each other around the circle. Have you seen it? Went that way.
So, culture stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe. You're ready, Mayor, I think we're pretty happy.
Okay.
So this is just the general side of Public Works, and then also Development Services. Start with Public Works, and the general budget, we've got the Parks Department and the Street Department that fall under Public Works. This first slide is just a summary or a picture of the staff count for each department. And then I think there's additional heads for either of these two departments that we have. It's going to be a reclassification from a parks coordinator to a parks superintendent. Look at later in the slides, an explanation for that. That's why that's circled. The next slide, I've provided additions and values for the employee. And now this is our accomplishments. We've completed the veterans memorial improvements as far as the protecting the monument and the city line. And it's landscaping, and I think it turned out really nice. We need the overall veterans upgrade. We have irrigation and those things, but we have really droughts. We completed the design and standard construction and started the construction for Leslie Park. We're hoping to have that completed by the end of summer, the date that we have right in this section. The main reason is the delay on the bridge. So hopefully the kids will be able to enjoy some of the basketball court that people bought before summer's out, but the overall project will be. We completed the parks concept meeting for Colorado and for Matthews. Matthews should be going out for bid probably this next month. We'll be posting improvements installed. We purchased a new, into our new public works building for our outfit. We completed a mowing. Speak RFP and awarded that road. Although we have ran into some issues with that contractor. We provided a 45-day notice to end our services with that company. We have some in-house, we're doing some in-house to catch up with a not gonna make any pain. We'll be looking for RFP. What we need to use to the backfill for what the city said. Driving the streets and drainage, going through the clean. Added to that, that how we can actually get that finalized. We developed specifications for our street signs and lighting that's included in our standard specs that we provide for all developers. We did our infrastructure inspection training and the two infrastructure inspectors. Those same two also completed the TML management training this year. We expanded the music series events to big food trucks, added the vendors and more kid activities. And we purchased equipment for their street village. We really didn't get to do. We didn't have much of a winter. But we'll have it for this upcoming. These are goals and priorities. This year, we're working to partner with Aubrey ISD and the Denton ISD on sports association needs. The area sports association has requested that we try to give them some assistance on maintaining ball fields. Hopefully, we can provide city ball fields in the future. But until then, they've asked for some assistance. So we just want to coordinate with them to see if we can find out what the inventory is, if there's fields that they have available that AYSA can use. Really get a better understanding of what AYSA needs. Right now, they're just asking for help maintaining the two fields here in Ogden, Colorado. We'll come to you with that, maybe not more, but right now that's a goal is how can we get more involved with the association, knowing that we're gonna have our own fields here in the near future. Start. Meeting that information. Goal is to fund our street CIP projects, because with our street capital improvement also comes drainage, those two are both in the meeting. We're hoping to develop a farmer's market. Implement community events and research. Yeah. The priorities will be drainage, street maintenance, sports fields, and park improvements. Have numerous supplemental requests. This is a new department relative. In the past, we didn't have a street department. Last year, year before, and last year, we started adding staff to that as the work orders and as the work increased. Prior to that, everybody in public works just kind of did a little bit of everything. So we don't have much equipment. We're asking for a barricade trailer. This would be an enclosed 7-foot by 16-foot bumper trailer. That would be stocked with store barricades, for road closures, whether it be a traffic event, whether it be city event. The trailer will always be ready when you grab it. Please can come get it. Talked about it for a couple of years. Thought it's time to try to put something.
So about 3 years ago, I put that in as a budget item of this. Somebody other than the council denied it. And then I think the mayor asked me the next year what happened to that. He asked for it.
It was about 4 years ago that this place.
Yeah.
It was about 4 years ago. Because Joe and I, this was before the events came. Joe and I and Kenny told me that he was supporting. And we were going to buy this trailer, put all these barricades in, because the police department at 2 o'clock in the morning, when they need stop signs, check stop signs, no, they are just not. And we went from an open trailer with the sun beating down and tearing everything up to an enclosed trailer, and then, so I never brought it back, so. I never brought it back after that first request, so I don't even think they ended up. Maybe a little bit, okay. But that's what happened.
Okay.
So if it's this time, we'll get it. All right, the second supplemental is the stormwater master plan and stormwater rate analysis. That's what we're calling the drainage study. This is similar to our water and wastewater master plan. We don't have a drainage plan. So we would have professional engineering firm come in, do the study, identify our drainage sheds, identify what improvements need to be made, and put together a capital improvement. Also, asking them to calculate what a drainage fee or a drainage rate would look like for the citizens to be able to fund that capital project, that capital fund. A lot of the cities, most all of the cities have a drainage fee. So they would be able to look at those improvements and be able to calculate what that would look like. And bring it to council this year, development fee. To be able to maintain drainage. We'll be able to help the water. So we have drainage. And that would cover, all of the city limits. We'd also cover language. Even though it's new, there's some preventative maintenance. That we do. Yeah, problem is, we just be city, responsible city on drainage. Street lighting is our third request. We did some improvements this year at Ridge. We have some additional requests along with Red Boulevard. There's still some areas that are pretty dark. And then also other big states. We've had several calls. So we're asking for some funding to add some additional lights. We work with the power company, we have an agreement with them where they pretty much order to do the work, we pay them. $13.95. Sugar. Is the request. We currently don't have one. Would have been a little handy. Here. Yes, but we do, maintain, there's a blackjack. Several areas that are in the city limits, and the trees do go over. Where there's not homes where we can't get them to be responsible. It's just ag clearly. So we do tree trimming regular throughout the year. We follow it to the wastewater plant, usually every once a year. The chipper would help in hauling it back and forth. Disposing of it. Some areas will be able to chip, some will not. Some will be able to chip there at the plant and then use the bark, for supply, but it just depends on what kind of. We are, in check size, and I'm working with Chief Slaughter on the burning of the brush. And making sure that we have that correct language correct in our ordinance. Burn permit that's issued, make sure we're complying with everything CQ requires. Also in the street department, we're asking for some funding for blackjack. This would be a minor improvement or a temporary improvement. I'm sure you guys have been down blackjack. It's the 377, there's quite a few potholes. We continue filling those regularly, and of course it just washes out. So this would be a little bit more of a major repair to replace or to do a larger section rather than just filling the potholes. And then on our capital improvement plan, with the county bond money, we have a project there to actually rework that whole road. It's great. The other street request is for the second phase of the Main Street beautification. You can't see phase one yet, but you will soon. It's been designed. We're waiting on TechStot to approve the funding before we can get the construction. But it's for Main Street in front of the park from 1 to. Once that's done, then phase 2, we would take the rest away. For sure. Depending on funding, we could add a third phase. We could do a block at a time. It just depends on how much the cost is and the funding mechanisms to do that. But this was part of the downtown master plan, and it's actually started before I came to do sidewalks, ADA, and crossing, lighting, and stadium irrigation. This would be just to design engineering, and it would give us a cost for construction. And then we can fund it in one phase, or we need to break it into two. The next item is a roller. I'm gonna do my best on this. Chuck may have to help me out here. So what we're looking at currently, we rent the roller, where we do the asphalt patches and repairs. So we kind of wait until we have several projects and then we'll rent it and do those repairs. If we have one on hand, then we wouldn't have to wait as long on some of the repairs. Plus, what the public works staff is telling me, this particular one has a drum roller as well, where you could use it for earth capping. So you can do water line, sewer line repairs, or putting new lines that you use it for. It's not just for asphalt. But I didn't bring the actual spec on it, but I can. If you want to look at it. Generally, that's the use of it for asphalt repairs. For earth. And that was the last request for the street. The next one is fleet services. It would actually be under public works. Number forward, just be new department funding. Asking for a position, first request is for a coordinator to start at that department and maintain that fleet and building maintenance operations. Starting to accumulate more buildings and more responsibilities. So takes away time from the public works staff. So I think this department can start with just one person managing, and then supplement assistants from the public works staff. We're looking at, the next item is the software, fleet management software.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
Is this fleet coordinator gonna work with all vehicles, with the ones for the public?
Then I do all of them.
And manage our.
That next item is that software, so it would be all equipment. Not only ambulance, fire. It would be tractors, generators. Any equipment. We would have it in the software, so we could track the maintenance of it. How much it's cost to maintain that piece of equipment. Hopefully, we can contain a workover system. And currently, we outsource all of our repairs. We don't put that in house, but we still be able to track with Flint. Offer and make sure it provides. Insurance, inspections on the, any of that's gonna go away, registrations, it'll be able to track all of that.
So, just we may wanna try and remember it all. They may have a preference on the software.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing, who is kind of leading this up right now is Kurt Kaminsky, and he's our SARS coordinator, and he has 15 years experience in fleet management. 15 years. Tell me 15 years. Sorry, yeah, he did tell me 15, I mean, so he's done that before at another company, and he's been researching them for us. There's a couple different times, there's one where they manage it for us, and there's one where we manage it in-house. But, right, I want to just do some demos, make sure we got our numbers right. Hold on until I get. We can shoot you over, but we just come up with some. Parks Department. We have several requests here as well. If we're trying to meet our goals of the Parks Ministry. The first one is not a new position, but it's a change in position from the coordinator to the superintendent. One of the first goals of the Parks plan was to hire a superintendent last year. We were ready for that yet. We're ready now. Now that we're starting the construction of the park improvements and the new parks, that's pretty much a full-time job, keeping up with the contractors. Even having people in the community help us keep up with contractors. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, going from construction side to construction side and keeping up with that, keeping up with the pay apps, the back and forth with the engineers, it's a lot. Rick's been doing that under his normal duties. And he's been doing a really good job. Hoping that if we get that position, we'll be able to. And then, just a side note, Rick did get a certification this year. And I probably don't have the correct language here, but it's a playground equipment inspector certification. Through one of the agencies. That had it with me, I put it together. He did take a course and pass that class. So at least when he's looking at some of our park equipment, he can give us feedback. Request number 2 for parks is the veteran park improvements. This is not the Main Street beautification. This would be the overall park itself. To add restrooms, sidewalks, shade structure, and additional parking. It would also redo some of the electrical. Doing some of the electrical with the Main Street project. And we'll do some additional electrical with this one. Since we're adding the restroom. We're hoping the restroom will be a replica of the railroad depot. And have some storage in the back for the Christmas tree. That's what we're hearing.
I think I'm good, but the harder thing is finding that.
Yeah. We have room, we have funds in the park plan where we can look at the shade for Leslie this year as well. I asked, Kurt's doing an inventory and has that information out for you today, but some of that equipment from afar looks like it could use an update. I don't know how old it is. In the fall. So where I was going with that, it might be time to replace that equipment. And now we're looking at equipment that does have shade, essentially covered. But I do not have it listed this year. So it might be something if we have funding left, that we might consider that. That's one of the things that the park superintendent will be doing as well. It says we're adding these parks and installing this equipment, we're gonna have some type of replacement plan. We'll do some upkeep on it, some improvements, but then at some point, whether it be 10 years, I don't know what the magical number is. We'll have to start looking at replacement. Okay, next time. Item 3 is the Trevady Park design. That's our little over 20-acre parcel that we obtained on Springville. And we're going to go through. It's going to allow us to prepare a concept. Its design, we might be able to go into an actual civil planning of it, and then one thing to the next year, where we can look at it at the end of the year and think about what comes out of it. Most of you guys know that's a large nature area, it does have a plan. There is some open space. Through some of the improvements we've done, some of the conversations we've had with Parks Board and citizens, some of the comments within soccer fields, tennis courts, that kind of thing. So we're gonna look to see if that's a good place for soccer fields. Not, we'll see if we can find another place. Definitely want to have trails system, open space. Fishing pond.
So Brad or Blake?
Not too much about that pond. I know it stays wet, but it does get a lot of flow through from the highway. So I'll get someone to look at that fish wise and see if that's a good application for fish, or will they just go downstream? Not sure how deep it is. We'll do that. We're hoping to add another event, trunk or treat event. This is, just trying to improve our events and add more for the community. This is a minimal cost. We want to bring it to you guys and make sure you're the ingredients that we add Halloween in the future. Well, our planner, our main idea was to do it image. But our parks coordinator, our event coordinator hasn't had very good luck. We reached out several times. We really don't understand why the city is involved, so we explained through the city limits and part of the community. And after that, they were willing to take monetary assistance, but they really didn't want to be involved in it. That's who I understand they've been talking about. I know they talked with the board member. And then several other folks that did the events. They did act like they were interested in a back to school batch of some sort. And that the city could be involved in, but they were real reluctant that they didn't want the city planning that. So, but if not, obviously the park would be a great place. Down Main Street, around. We haven't put that together yet.
That involves being.
Yeah, you get enough backlash already, yeah.
We tried to get involved in Easter. We weren't able to. All right, so number 5, behind the old pocket park. We were able to design that this year. And we got the funding to construct it. It's ready to go. We're ready to go.
Oh, maybe they turn around and turn them on. Start selling the people.
I know Kurt has talked to them, they just wanted some more information about what all was gonna be there and they acted like they supported it. Now you can open it in the comment. All right, number 6, this is a farmer's market. There's, most of you probably track, social media that there has been a lot of comments lately about community garden and farmer's market. We've been working on this in the background for about a year now, so I'm glad to see that that is really something that the citizens are wanting to get into. It was in our Parks Master Plan, that it was identified as a need for the city. So we're looking at the listening park to try to do an event there. We've got several tentative plans, whether it be every Saturday of the month or a certain month, whether we have a fall and spring. Christie has quite a few ideas for that. And what we'd like to do is just to get it started, which is included in this project, is renovation of garden beds. We had a pretty good plan going, and then just recently we found out that one of the gentlemen that works at the RE ISD is working on some type of community garden. The food truck park next door to the hospital. So Christie's gonna work with them to find out what it is that they're doing, to see if we could do something together, or do we still want to move forward with others? Since Keep Our Beautiful discontinued that program last year, we do have one lady that's using the garden now, just without a program, because we don't have one. But we plan to kind of pick up where Keep Our Beautiful left off, have a city bring the garden. Yeah, you have to pay rent, you have to rent the bed and all that kind of stuff. And we could put something together similar to that. for a revenue stream to help support it. Or it could just be, come and use the garden, sign up and use the garden, but now that we know that the school's doing something, I want to kind of see if it's, maybe he can come join us. Or if he needed it at the school, I understood it was for the school, but when you talked to Chris, he said it was for the community. Yes, it is, that's how I learned about this. So we'll continue working that, but either way, if we don't have a community garden here, we can contribute and work out there either way. Either way, we think we need a bond like that. We'd like to, in addition to the beds, improving the beds, we wanted to purchase another building. In the back, it'll have storage, just come up here and see it, the homeowner makes with your lawn mower and the carport. So the front's all shaded, we'll be able to put 4 booths in there. There would be storage in the back so that they could put, they could have crates and carts and stuff. So that's what happened. And then all the other things would just be marked on the ground. As that program grew, we could possibly do a greenhouse or some other type items that stay there structurally. Long term, we would want probably to do some free parking. We're working on a whole concept plan for that now. The future of the parking would be a little closer to 6 more buildings and fruit trees, and these would be along the railroad tracks. It's still be more that we can space. Just a thought, she has several plans drawn up. But this request would get some money in the budget so we could start.
Are we running power for booths, or are we doing generators? Is that always been a challenge?
So the NED is interested in possibly participating with us, and that's something that Christine has mentioned to the board, possibly some electrical, maybe even some type of stage area, not like a big band stage, but in case we do want to have some music or want to have announcements. I don't think we would want to have the full pedestals like we have over here, that like food trucks in there constantly. I think we would definitely need several. It would also help for Easter, when we do our Easter hunt in the back houses. Right, it's number 7, Twin Ridge Park. This is complement our fire department. This is the first responders park that we have planned here. This will give us a concept and a design. And then hopefully we will construct out of the next budget, and I'm hoping that will begin safety in the fire department. Yes. Part of that is going to be done with the fire department. The fire department's doing the building and the parking.
In the base for the equipment.
That's part of coming. And then all the equipment and the additional. So you're fencing it as well.
Yes.
Number 8, is just a request for some funding for mowing. We previously had our mowing in development services, because that's where code enforcement was. So now we have code enforcement in the police department, and then we will have some mowing costs. There's 25,000 is for the place for contract mowing. This would be for the items that we contract out. Maybe that's 25. Yes. We did develop and amend our rates to match the current contract. If we end up with a new contract with different rates, then we, plus it has an administrative fee. Park 7 is a mowing trailer. We currently don't have an enclosed mowing trailer or a place to store our 2 mowers inside. So this would allow us to store them at the wastewater plant or out of the sun, or the elements, and then also be able to transport them to the locations that we know. Now we load them on a flatbed trailer and we have to let it go. We'd be able to house them in their trailer and be loaded. To take them. This is an idea to avoid having to build additional metal elements. This way. Okay, number 10, this is the last one for parks. We talked about when we ordered our Christmas tree, and we went with, I think it was 18 foot. And there is a 2-foot extension for the tree. I think it's close to $5,000 is what we requested in the budget. So we put the tree at 20 foot. It does come in by the 1 week, some branches, everything to have it ready for display, additional 2 foot. All right, I'm gonna speed up. Have any questions on parks? The next one is development services. Ian gave you a little bit of,
We discussed that. Let's discuss that one thing. So one of the main things I wanted to present to you today, the request from the library, that you're going to see on the 29th. Brittany has expanded programs, expanded staff, expanded options for citizens. And what that's done is it's caused a heavy workload on the library. You had the presentation that was given to you recently from Brittany and showed all the things that they're doing right there. Brittany was going to ask for a new employee in this budget. It would be the 6th employee for the library. But she came back to me afterwards and said she'd rather have 2 part-time employees for the same amount of money. That it would give her more options to have people scheduled at different times and have solid schedules for certain people, but then have other people that can float and move around. The thing is, right now, Brittany's filling a lot of this role, and Brittany's unable to do a lot of the director stuff that needs to be done. There's some really important things that we need to be doing right now as far as funding goes, and she's having a hard time getting it done because she's watching the front, doing programs and these things. So what my presentation today would be is I would like to go ahead and hire 2 part-time people now, rather than wait until October 1. And just go ahead, it's $60,000 for the year. We have enough budget savings this year, and we have enough money surplus to be able to do it. So we'd like to just go ahead and hire 2 people, give her that part-time help that she needs. Based upon the things I told you in that presentation that she did. You don't have to vote, you just tell me that's what you want to do and we'll start with it. She's like, well, I pulled it out of her. She presented it at first and verbally to me as full-time. Then she put it into her budget package as 2 part-times, and I pulled it out to go full-time on it. And she came in and visited with me. We had a meeting and talked about it. And this is what I really need to part. Send it to the board for just one full-time, so give her 40 hours, 2 part-times, and 60. So she's really looking at it from the standpoint of a positive for the library and not just to bring on those. And what I think we can do is we can parlay that into next year, maybe looking at making one of those full time and keeping it apart. But just to go slowly. But I really, for me, I need Brittany to do director stuff. I need her to do director duty and working the library. library like she's been doing. It's taking away from her ability. To me, right now, today, it's the most important thing on the sheet of paper, is to get her taken care of. I'll bring you something on the 27th. That way, we'll just go ahead and update our, we can update the personnel. The other positions, where we just update that on the 27th. Thank you for waiting.
Slides. Run through them. Here's all.
You know, they're not taking action.
Well, we can sit here and talk, but
It's just an open service.
I thought we had to have a forum for that.
there's no action items on your agenda, so you can't take an action.
I know which was anything that you could.
We can talk, we can,
Yeah.
we'd have to end the meeting, and then, but we can sit here and talk. Without, because I mean, we're just people talking now, there's no more anymore. So,
Go see that.
Open services. Just again, gave you a flow chart so you can see the number of employees that we have. The chief building official is one that we've recently added, and that opening should be going out next week sometime. So under the chief building official, we have one building inspector position. And then hopefully in the future, we will be adding another building inspector and a planning examiner. That's why they're shaded in gray. Those aren't being requested this year. We're proposing what we do. An idea of what that should look like. Development services, we are requesting one new position, requesting a manager position. To oversee GIS, permitting, and planning and zoning. Currently, Shanda is our permit coordinator, and she's managing all of that currently, between her and I. Hopefully, we will be able to get that manager position, and that would free up her position if she's able to promote into that. Permit coordinator. Could be back to. No, we have a third-party planner and third-party engineers. When I say planner, we have planners, and we have engineers. She also does all the coordinating between them. And that would stay in the manager's position, do all that coordinating, or back and forth with flats and civils and between the inner development for DT, fire, police, public works. Our accomplishments this year, we adopted the most current international codes. We adopted alcohol sales in zoning districts, implemented interactive GIS mapping. Just below there is all of the permits that are in process year to date. By the time our year's over, those will definitely have what we sort of have as goals for next year is bring in more of our in-house building inspections. We've done that, and we tried to do that over the last couple of years, but we haven't really been successful. So we're hoping with the adding this building official, we'll be able to really increase our number of inspections. And we're working on a quick and smoother development agreement process. That would be boilerplate templates, make sure we have consistency with all of our different elements that go into development agreements. And one of the things that we've been working on and will continue to work on is digital. On Friday this year will be the ordinance amendments. We need to do an ordinance amendment on our subdivision ordinance. And we will also have some zoning ordinances coming to our. And we're looking at doing some website improvements. We redo a lot of new forms with all of the ordinances that we adopted and do our SOPs to make sure they're consistent. And the only other supplemental request besides our staff to convert is the water. Brief and talk about it. That would be shared, that would be available for all city staff. It would be the public works building, just because we don't have room for it here. All I had, unless you have questions. You'll be back in 2 weeks. It's Sherman Brown, the building in house.
You wanna just wait until next week? Close out the meeting and we can talk about it. So that kind of gives both of you an idea. You could be thinking about it over the next couple of weeks. We'll meet on the 29th and start with this and then launch into CIP. The only thing we're talking about.